The wall didn't collapse. It opened, not violently, not loudly. It softened, like skin warming under a palm, brick seams loosening, plaster breathing outward as if the building had finally decided to exhale after holding its breath for decades. Evan was already running when the first voice crossed the threshold, not knocking anymore, speaking, not from one place but from everywhere at once. The hallway filled with names, spoken carefully, lovingly, like a roll call that had been delayed for too long. And then the heat returned. The fire didn't look like fire. It lived in the air, in the shimmer above the floor, in the way the walls bent slightly, like memories under pressure. The smell came first, thick and familiar, smoke that had learned patience, smoke that had been waiting for permission. Evan's lungs burned, even though nothing was burning now. The room had opened, and it was finally time to be counted. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Pop Vibe Studio. If you've been listening since the beginning, stay with me till the very end. And if this is your first time here, follow and subscribe, because this is where the story ends. Evan stood at the edge of the opening, his heart pounding so hard it felt borrowed. The space behind the wall was no longer narrow. It wasn't wider, it was deeper. The room folded inward, brick giving way to scorched wood, then to beams blackened so completely they seemed carved out of shadow. This wasn't a room, it was a function, a place where memory went when no one else wanted to hold it. The walls glowed faintly, not with flame, but with warmth. Each name etched into the surface carrying its own heat, its own gravity. Some names barely glimmered, others pulsed, strong, restless. Evan recognized more than he wanted to. Tenants who had moved away, neighbors who had passed quietly, people who had simply stopped being mentioned. And then, at the center of the space, the ledger, not paper, not a book. A slab of blackened wood split down the middle, names carved so deeply they looked molten, like the act of remembering had burned them into existence. The voices softened when Evan stepped inside. "You came," they said, not accusing, relieved. Marcus hadn't followed, neither had Elena. Father O'Leary's words echoed in Evan's head. Some doors only open for the person whose name is already written. Evan swallowed. "What do you want from me?" he asked, his voice barely steady. The room answered without sound. Heat shifted, names brightened, and a single voice emerged from the chorus, older than the rest, calm in a way that suggested it had survived being forgotten too many times. "We want to be finished," it said. "We want to be remembered correctly, or not at all." Evan felt something tighten in his chest. "The fire," he whispered. "It never ended because no one closed the story," the voice finished. "They sealed the space, but left the memory open." The fire wasn't rage. It wasn't punishment, it was maintenance. A system built when people believed memory could be outsourced to walls, to records, to places instead of people. When the town stopped saying names out loud, the building took over. The room wasn't evil, it was obedient. And obedience without guidance becomes hunger. Images moved along the walls, not visions, recollections. The convent, the sisters, the fever that took them quietly at first, then all at once. The town had panicked not because of death, but because of responsibility. Names were shortened, records were simplified. People were buried without proper memory, without ceremony, without enough voices to keep them anchored. Someone had decided the building would remember for them. A ledger, a place to put what they didn't want to carry. But memory doesn't stay still, it grows. It asks questions. It wants to be fed. Evan remembered Elena's hands shaking over the letters. Marcus staring at the wall like it might listen. Father O'Leary saying, "Names are anchors." "Why me?" Evan asked. The room hummed. "Because your name was spoken back," the voice said. "You listened. You answered. And once someone listens, the room knows where to return the weight." Evan looked down. At the bottom of the ledger, his name glowed faintly. Unfinished. Not carved, not burned. Waiting. "Say it," the voices whispered, not demanding, inviting. "If I do," Evan said slowly, "what happens to me?" The room paused, then, honesty. "You will leave," the voice said, "but you will carry us." "And the room?" "The room will sleep," it replied, "for a long time." Evan felt the floor warm beneath his feet, felt the choice tighten around him. Save himself by forgetting, or remember, and never be free of it. Destroy the ledger and starve the room, or finish the story and become part of it. The voices leaned closer. We were left unfinished, they said. Don't leave us that way again. Evan thought of the town, of how easily people moved on, of how names faded when no one needed them anymore. He thought of the knocking, patient, polite, waiting for someone to answer. And he understood. This wasn't about survival, it was about responsibility. So he stood straighter. He spoke clearly. My name is Evan Carter, he said, and I remember you. The room inhaled. Every name flared once. Bright, gentle, grateful. The heat drained from the air like a held breath finally released. The ledger cracked down its center, not violently, but decisively, splitting into cool dust that settled across the floor, across Evan's shoes, across his hands. The voices faded, one by one, until silence returned, real silence, the kind that doesn't wait. Evan woke on the hallway floor at dawn. The wall was solid again. No seam, no warmth, no knocking. The building felt empty, not abandoned, just finished. Weeks passed, people moved out, others moved in. Hawthorne Flats stopped appearing in conversations because nothing demanded attention anymore. But Evan changed. He carried names with him now, not written, spoken. Whenever he heard someone say, no one remembers them anymore, Evan did, quietly, out loud, so walls wouldn't have to. Thank you for listening to the final episode on Pop Vibe Studio. If this story stayed with you, please like, follow, and share. And tell me in the comments, should we combine all episodes into one full story video? More stories are waiting. Because some places don't haunt us, they remember us, and they're still listening.